All right, welcome folks. Happy Tiger Tuesday. You can say hello in the chat. I'm excited to talk with you all about fundraising. Hey everyone, Caroline. I get mistaken for Caroline often. Olivia, Liam, Bella, good to see everyone. Julia, if you are feeling ambitious this afternoon, I'd love to see your faces too. So if you want to come on screen, really helpful for me to see people. Office phone. All right, I see our A+ students here. It's good to see your faces. I hope y'all all had a really good winter break. You're resting. Y'all have a whole nother week. I know people who are already back in school already. Um, and we're going to spend some time together talking about student org fundraising. So, hello again. I'm Carolyn Harris. I'm the Director of Student Activities. I'm also the advisor for Student Government Association. I started at TU in August of 2022. Is that right? Yeah. So about 2.5 years here on campus so far. I love all things student activities, large scale programming, student organizations, all the work that you all do to make really good experiences for everyone on campus. And so today I'm hoping we can dive a little bit deeper into one of the big financial components of being a student organization leader. In the chat, if you could, similar to what Chris had us do earlier, if this is your first time being an org leader, so maybe you're the treasurer, the president, or just a new e-board member, can you write a 1 in the chat if you're new to being an org leader? That's a good chunk there. And then if you're returning, but you're just trying to learn something new, can you drop a 2 in the chat? So you're not new to this, you're true to this, you're trying to make things better for your student group. Awesome. I'm hoping too for the folks who are returning to their roles, your participation by sharing past experiences, there'll be an opportunity for y'all to share. I'm hoping this will help us move through some of the pieces. So to get us started, this is our agenda. I'll do a quick introduction about fundraising, not necessarily about myself. You already know who I am. We'll talk about the SGA requirements and limitations. There are best practices to how we do things for fundraising, how to deposit funds we'll talk about, and then we'll go more in depth on fundraising ideas and the do's and don'ts. And then we'll have time for Q&A. You also do not have to wait until the end of the presentation to ask a question. You can drop it in the chat or you can raise your hand and I'd be happy to answer it on screen. This is being recorded so that folks can reference this after the fact. So it'll be helpful for all of us moving forward. So introductions about fundraising specifically. I want to acknowledge that fundraising can be intimidating. So this is like a call to ease into the process. Hopefully the tools and the tricks that I share today will help you figure out a really solid way to approach fundraising for your student group. And then maybe we can share some ideas for things that have been really successful for some of the groups in the past. I know y'all heard this from our guest speaker earlier today. Fundraising and managing budgets can be really valuable skills as a human being who works in a professional world. So lean into learning how to do it and how to do it well. It can be really impressive on a resume and help you navigate getting a new job or elevating in a department or an office that you work in. The process and the procedure really matter in fundraising. Finances can be A pretty daunting thing to be responsible for and to manage. We also are a state institution. So there are policies and procedures around the way that we do the work that we're charging you all to do. And so if you do it incorrectly, there could be really big ramifications. And with that, there's also lots of opportunities. There's opportunities to learn, to collaborate, and to do really good work in supporting and elevating what your student organization does, particularly as it comes to fundraising, but really creating experiences across campus. I see there's a note in the chat about where the recording will be. All the recordings for the summit will be available in about a week or so. They'll be posted on YouTube, I think on the SGA or Student Activity YouTube account. And we'll send an email to everyone who participated with those links. All right, some of the requirements. So SGA has some requirements around fundraising, particularly if you receive a semester budget. So every group that receives a semester budget from SGA must fundraise at least 15% of the allocation. And beyond the semester budget, groups who get particular grants also may be required to fundraise the 15% of the allocated money from the grant. So being mindful that the requirement of fundraising is connected to utilizing funds that are provided by student government association. This is very, very particular here, this next part. SGA funds cannot actually be used to fundraise money to meet that 15% requirement. So this means that if you wanted to do a car wash, you cannot ask SGA money to buy buckets and soap and sponges to do that car wash to raise the 15% requirement. So don't do that. The only exception to this is for fundraising in general is if you are fundraising for a cause. So say your organization is really passionate about breast cancer awareness. You can utilize funds to raise money for breast cancer awareness. So you might host an event that highlights survivors, and all the money collected at that event then gets donated to the local breast cancer awareness organization. That is the only exception. This is also a reminder that anytime you want to spend money, whether it's related to spending your SGA funds or otherwise, that it always starts with a purchase request. So make sure you do that. Some of our best practices. So these are things I think that could be attributed to anything that you're doing as it relates to money or your student organization, but particularly to fundraising because it can be a lengthy process. So the first thing to do is to plan early. So us having conversations now might be the help or the impetus you need to make a plan for the spring semester. So you're not caught at the deadline without having raised the funds you need. Make sure you identify your target audience. So if you want to fundraise across the entire campus, that's a pretty big undertaking. But maybe you want to be more specific to a smaller population around campus. Make sure you're just acknowledging who it is you are trying to raise money from. It could be people off campus, so it might be local businesses, it might be family members. I know growing up, I did a lot of fundraising, selling candy bars and wrapping paper and cookie dough and all the things. So just identify who it is to help you actually get to your goal. Make sure you're maximizing your resources. We're going to talk a lot about some resources throughout this presentation. So just knowing about them is not enough. You should be utilizing them. Some of the key ones I already know off top are our SGA advising staff. So there's professional staff that can support you. Some of our SGA student leaders are pretty well versed in financial components. There's a lots of campus partners who can help you. There's staff in event and conference services or our auxiliary business services office that can help you figure out what you need. Make sure you're utilizing campus processes and accounts. So I mentioned this if folks were at the treasurer workshop. Student groups are not permitted to have off-campus bank accounts. So using your campus account is part of this process. But because you're using your on-campus accounts, that means you also should be using the on-campus processes and procedures to utilize those accounts. So depositing funds in a particular way, and then spending them also in a very particular way. We'll talk about that more later. And then make sure you're being safe and being smart with money. We are also, some of you might have just learned this, but third-party finance apps are not permitted. That means a lot of times you're using cash or checks to spend or to deposit on behalf of your organization. So if you fundraised $200 in cash, you probably don't want to walk around with that in your pocket for too long. So being smart with your money would look like as soon as your event is over, the next time the business hours are open for auxiliary services, that you take that money there immediately to deposit, or keeping it in a safe, a locked area so that folks can't get to it or try to steal it from you. So be smart about it. You can be strategic too in making your plan to get things done for your org. The next piece I'll share about is how you actually deposit funds. So similar to anyone who's ever used the petty cash process, depositing funds happens in the same space, the Auxiliary Business Services Office, which is also the One Card office. So once you collect the money from wherever it might be coming from, sponsors, group members, et cetera, you're going to take that cash or check to the Auxiliary Business Services Office in West Village Commons on the 3rd floor. Take all your information there and all of your supplies, all of your money there, and they will create a deposit ticket for you. They'll collect everything, they'll count it to make sure it's correct, and they'll do a deposit slip. For SGA, it's blue, it's typically blue, and then they'll give you a receipt. That's your proof of deposit. For you to know, once that deposit happens, we get an email from Auxiliary Services staff that tells us which groups deposited money and how much. And then we add those funds to your group's account in QuickBooks. So Student Government Association uses QuickBooks as our tracking system to ensure you all can know how much money has been allocated or spent from your group's account. Any questions so far? Oh, y'all are good. I must be doing a good job. So this next part is for you to do a little chatting in the chat area. So we're going to talk through some ideas. So for the folks who are returning, all those twos in the chat, what are some successful fundraisers, or anybody? So if you might have done this maybe in high school or some other way, what are some successful fundraisers that your group has hosted in the past or that you're planning to host this semester? So drop some ideas in the chat and I can name some out loud. You can also unmute if you wanted to talk to the group. Ooh, hot chocolate when it's cold. Today would be a perfect day for hot chocolate, y'all. It's freezing outside. Pie in the face fundraisers. Did you get any administrators to pie in the face? Because I'd pay money to pie my boss in the face. I'm just saying. Bake sales. Selling snacks like crumble. Is there a crumble close by? Like close to campus? You'll have to tell me. Any other ideas? Yes, there's one close to campus. Thanks, Sharon. All right. Restaurant fundraisers are successful for my group. Book sales, that's a new one. I love that idea. All right, so it's funny that these things were named. Many of them are actually on my list of ideas for how you can fundraise some money. So bake sales is one of the top ways that we see student groups on our campus fundraise. It is particularly, oh, I'll get to that next. Each one of these will have its own slide so we can talk more in depth. So I call this share at night. That's how it was when I was in undergrad, but working with a local restaurant is one of those things that someone named in the chat. You can also host campus events and sell tickets for people to attend. That's a good way to raise money. Just remember, you can't use SGA funds to do that. You can collect donations or secure sponsorships. Maybe you want to do a raffle. There's some asterisks next to that because there's some very particular things that need to happen for a raffle to be okay on campus. Um, you also could apply for grants. We have some on-campus grants. There might be opportunity for grants off campus. And then maybe you also do some membership dues for people to be members of the organization. So our first one, also, if you know, that's me and Doc. So bake sales or holiday grams. So this is an expanded version of a bake sale or just a tad bit different. So bake sales, y'all know what that is. You get some cookies or cupcakes or slices of cakes from the grocery store. You package them up. You get a table somewhere in the Union or another high traffic area, and you sell those items for a particular amount of money. It's really easy because most people like a sweet treat throughout the day. And it's a great way just to get the word out there. It's a low investment or low startup cost at the beginning, which means a really high return, or can be a really high return. It's really great for member engagement. You can take turns at the table. You can have multiple members at the table helping to sell those goods, and then create some variety and some bonding moments in that time. You can maximize your timing and location. So again, the Union is a pretty high traffic area, but I'm curious, has anyone else had a bake sale somewhere other than the Union? I spend most of my time in the Union, so I couldn't say. Maybe an academic building, someone gets out of class lets out, they want to buy a cookie. Freedom Square, okay. West Village Commons, oh, okay, and CFA. That's good to know. So those are some good options for potentially having your bake sale. Make sure you advertise your bake sale so people know to look forward to it. It might also help them make sure they have some cash in their wallet before they get to your table. And then there are more details, particularly if you want to table and sell your baked goods in the Union from events and conference services. So they'll let you know how you can reserve a table and what policies and procedures you need to follow to do that bake sale. The other piece that I don't have any notes on here, but I got a phone call from a student a few weeks ago, or really before the break, excuse me, about doing a holiday gram. So if y'all remember in school, I did it a lot in middle school. You might want to send a gram to someone, maybe for Valentine's Day, and maybe your group is going to make origami hearts or little balloons that someone can pay money to, and the members of your org deliver that item to the person. That's a really great way, again, low investment, making origami flowers and hearts, relatively low entry point. It takes a little bit of time to make the things and deliver them, but the material investment is a little bit lower. So has anyone actually done grams? It doesn't have to be holiday, but grams of some sort? It feels very middle school to me, but I think cute as a college student. I'd be really excited if I got something, like got a gram from someone. No? Right. So the next options are share it nights. So I'm calling it a share night, but it could be called anything else. Someone again already mentioned this in the chat, but you could work with a local or a chain restaurant to schedule a night that part of the proceeds from the profits of that evening get donated to your student organization. It usually ranges from 10 to 20%. I know some restaurants are a little bit harder to get into because the payoff is really high. Chipotle does it every once in a while. I know Chipotle is really hard to get in on. But if you're getting 20% back from your purchases, that can be a pretty high return rate for you. You would need to organize with the company to make sure they have all of the information they need to send you the funding afterwards. It's really important that you promote what's going on. So usually they'll say you have to bring in like a slip of paper to the register when you're making your purchase so that they know that the part of the proceeds are going to go to your organization. A really good strategy would be to have them coincide with large scale events. Maybe you do it right before or right after an event, maybe right after, so that it's an easy transition. You wrap up the event, you say, hey, we're going to go down to the local restaurant so we can buy some stuff. You get dinner, you get to hang out with your friends, and then your group gets to make money. And then make sure you're using print material. I know we spend a lot of time on our phones, but it's probably a bit easier to remember if you have something printed out that you can see on a regular basis. Has anyone else had success doing a share night at a restaurant? And then are there any suggestions for local restaurants who would be willing to support student groups from TU? Y'all are a quiet group. All right. Next option are campus events. So for campus events, there's a couple things I want to say about this. Again, we noted, and I think for folks who were in the last treasurer workshop meeting, there's an explanation that needed some updating. For Student Government Association funds, any event using SGA funds cannot charge at all. So it's not just charging non-TU students. You cannot charge people to attend a program that is being paid for by SGA. So keep that in mind. If you wanted to do a fundraiser and your group has enough money in your general account, you could do what you like. So if that's the case, you can focus on charging people to attend your program. It can be TU students or otherwise. If you wanted to prioritize not charging TU students or a certain number of TU students get in for free, so maybe it's the first 20 TU students who signed up can get into the program for free, then you can charge everyone else. It's a really great tool as well to get faculty and staff engaged with your programs. I'd definitely be willing to pay a few dollars to go to a student event to make sure y'all are meeting your goals and to support you. Remember that your marketing is essential specifically for off-campus folks. So maybe you want to target your family members, close friends who go to other institutions to get them out to come to your events. You could make it so that it's a challenge for your members. So you can say, hey, all members, we're expecting everyone to sell at least 3 tickets to our event. Hopefully that means you'll have a sold out event or sold out show. And then heighten your opportunity for making more money. Bigger is better if you have the funds. We know it can be a little bit expensive to host some programs on campus, but again, being strategic and using your resources could help you through that. And make sure that if you do choose to sell tickets on campus, you should not be doing that on your own. You absolutely must be using the TU ticket office. We use Ticketmaster as our vendor, and the TU ticket office staff can help you get everything set up. I think there's a question in the chat. So is there a way to view our general balance on QuickBooks or anything else, or do we check our balance with the SGA treasurer? That's a good question. The SGA treasurer does not have access to QuickBooks. So you should email SGA finance at towson.edu to request it's called a trial balance. And then someone will reply and send you your org. Make sure you say what your org is, and then they'll send you back your information. All right, donations and sponsorships. So I'm talking about these sort of in the same breath, but technically 2 different processes. So asking for donations from folks. At every event, you could do this at every event or just your larger ones. Having a donation box on your welcome table is a good way to request funds from folks. You also could do a fundraising campaign through the TU Foundation. So say your group wants to go on a big trip because it's the 20th anniversary of your organization existing at TU. And you want to travel to New York to, I don't know, do something. So your fundraising, you could do a fundraising campaign to say, hey, it's our 20th year. We want to fundraise this money so that we can do this particular thing. The TU Foundation can help your student organization actually create a campaign around what it is you're trying to do. And then you would do the work. Maybe you're contacting your recent alumni or your alumni in general from your organization, from folks around campus, from faculty and staff. There is technically a separate process for a fundraising campaign that's through the TU Foundation. You also might, this is on the sponsorship side, partner with a local business. So if you ever see t-shirts, like sometimes you get a free t-shirt and there's like a lot of vendors and stuff on the back, but there's like a pretty just visual on the front. It's usually because the vendors on the back paid for the cost of the t-shirt. So the t-shirt is just one example. You could ask for sponsorships from local businesses for just about anything. You want to be sure you're specific about your request and how you would utilize the funds or how your group would benefit from having access to the resources or funds that they provide. Some groups are also connected to national organizations. So if you are, there might be opportunities for sponsorships or donations from those national organizations. Don't be afraid to ask. They might have already programs in place for you to request grant funding or sponsorship funds, but you would just need to do the process to receive them. Make sure you work with the SGA finance staff to confirm that sponsorships don't conflict with any campus contracts. The best example I have is if Red Bull, we get this a lot. Red Bull wants to come be a sponsor for your group, and they want to come hand out Red Bulls across campus. Well, that would be in violation of the contract we have with Coke. So we're a Coke campus now, and Red Bull is not a Coke product. So we wouldn't want them coming to our campus and violating the contract that we have with Coke. So if you're wondering, make sure you ask a professional staff member, and we can let you know before you agree fully to getting sponsorship from a local business. Any other thoughts or questions so far? Not yet. All right, so this is kind of a big one slash I want you to be very mindful because I got this question recently. So some people want to have a raffle. So you put together this big basket or the big prize. It comes with a 55-inch screen TV and a PS5 and 3 games. That's a lot. That's a lot. But maybe it was donated to your org. But you want to raffle it off. So you want to raise some money. Raffles are considered games of chance, which is also known as gambling. Gambling is generally a restricted process in most states. The state, excuse me, the state of Maryland, and particularly Baltimore County, has very particular rules on how to manage games of chance. There is a very, very in-depth process to make that happen. So if you think your group wants to host a raffle or any other version of games of chance where someone pays money and they are not guaranteed to receive something in return, then you must talk to a professional staff member. So you can either reach out to the SGA finance staff, which is Susan or Janaya, or you can reach out to me and we can talk through what the process is. So I have links to like websites and forms that you would have to fill out before you host the raffle. If you do choose to do a raffle, make it easy to engage. So keep your participation affordable. So maybe it's $1 per raffle ticket. Maybe you get 10 tickets for $8. I don't know. Figure out something, make it easy for entry. Make sure you also collect contact information for easy follow-up. You don't want to pick a winner and then not have a way to contact them. And then make sure you can. A good way to do this is to connect your raffle to a large event that you might be hosting to build some of the excitement around what you're doing. So raffles are a good way to fundraise money. Just know there's a particular process that has to be followed because of state laws. There's a question in the chat. So would a student paying money to participate in a competition be considered a game of chance? Nope, that sounds like registration to me. So if you're registering for an event, that's different than paying for a chance to win something. I know it sounds similar, but two different things. All right, this is a big one that I hope should be rather easy for you to uh, initiate or step into. So it's SGA grants. So SGA has actually quite a few grants that you could utilize. Your group could apply for one or all of these. There are some limitations to the amounts of money that are in each of the grants, but they are options. Many of these things sound like what they are. So there's descriptions on the website, but I will go through them. The first one is a collaboration fund. That's particularly reserved for when two or more groups are working together for an event. So collaborate, you might get some more money. Explore conference funds is less for a group and more for an individual. But if you know your group wants to highlight or share information about something great that you're doing and promoting it to the larger community, you can request money to help travel to a conference. The Just Do It Fund really is if you have a new, exciting idea and you want to see it come to life, you can apply for the Just Do It Fund. The next one is for security relief or SAFE. If your group is having a large scale program that ECS requires safe security to be present at, but maybe your group did not plan for it in your semester budget, or you just weren't expecting it, you can apply for the security relief fund, and SGA will pay for SAFE to be present at your event. SAFE is the name of the company. The sustainability fund is particular to initiatives for that are connected to sustainability. So it could be um, food sustainability, it can be environmental sustainability, it could be really anything connected to sustainability. Individual students and groups can apply for these funds. And then weekend retention fund are for programs that are hosted Friday through Sunday and intended for the entire campus. Did y'all know that SGA grants were a thing? I hope y'all are learning new stuff here. Okay. Oh, didn't know. So look, now y'all know. Make sure you go to the SGA website and explore what the options are for you. And then the last idea that we had was about membership dues. For membership dues, does anybody actually request membership dues from their members? I don't know. I never know how often or how many groups are doing this. Yes, okay. All right, y'all. Okay, so we've got a few yeses and nos. Membership dues might be, uh, I don't know, I don't want to call it easy. I don't want it to be a barrier. So be mindful if you do decide to charge membership dues for students to participate in your organization. If you do decide, just know that members' contribution to the cost of running the org could be helpful for getting things going. So some of the membership dues might be used for planning events, for hosting meetings or having food. Just make sure that however you plan to use the dues, that it is clearly outlined to the members so that they know where their money generally is going. Now, you don't have to do it dollar for dollar, but it would be helpful to know if I'm going to give you $10 a semester, that I understand how that money is going to be utilized. Some of the do's and don'ts. So don't utilize third-party apps like Venmo and Cash App. What you should do instead is use cash and or check. There also is an opportunity for if you need to make like a large deposit, or if you need to have your members make a deposit, that you go to the Auxiliary Business Services office to swipe your card. That's an option. The second thing is do not hold on to cash or checks for longer than 24 to 48 hours. What you should do instead is deposit those funds to the Auxiliary Service Business Office as soon as possible, typically the day of or the next morning. You also should not wait until the last minute to plan your fundraising efforts. What you should do is utilize your resources, including the SGA finance team, to make a plan early. And then if you run into any trouble, someone will be around to support you and navigating the processes. And that's what I got for y'all today. So we have time for question and answer. The information about SGA's office is listed here. So the SGA phone number and the location. The at Towson, that's not right. Sorry. That's supposed to be their Instagram handle. Ignore this. But SGA Finance at towson.edu is our email account. And one of our professional staffs will get back to you as soon as they can. All right, questions. It also can be about anything finance. It doesn't have to just be about fundraising. So if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer them. Oh, the last slide for 1 second. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yep, I sure can. Did I do that good of a job? Y'all don't have no questions? All right. I was going to try to quiz y'all, but maybe that's not necessary. Y'all are feeling comfortable, ready to lead your organization's finances? I see some head nods. I get some thumbs ups. Oh, thank you. I did a good job, y'all, for the chat. I appreciate y'all. Travell, I've been looking at you. You've been helping me through. Appreciate it.
I actually did think of a question.
Yeah.
Um, I was wondering because I'm a part of it's kind of a new organization. I don't know
Mhm.
if we're going to implement dues or not, but do you recommend, like, do you have any recommendations for like a starting rate or like how you could implement that into an organization that doesn't necessarily meet like once a week or something like that?
Yeah, that's a really good crowdsourcing question. I'm wondering if one of your peers could answer that. I don't know what the average dues amount might be. Anyone want to contribute to the answer?
My club is a big club, so we started at $5. So if your club is new, I'd probably start a little lower than five. I don't know how many members are in your club, so I would kind of gauge with other e-board members to see if maybe I don't know, $3 range or a $3 to $5 range is usually a good start.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else have different amount that they might use charge for dues? Right. $3 to $5 might be your answer. But that was a great question. So I don't necessarily want to keep y'all longer than necessary. This was supposed to go until 4 o'clock. I thought we were going to have just a tad bit more engagement. I'm going to drop the link to the main Zoom room for folks to go back. Please, there's more to this summit. So don't dip on us completely. Make sure you go back to the main room. I'm going to stay in here for a little bit. If anyone wants to ask a particular question to their student group, I'll stay on to help answer any question. There was not a sign in for this. I don't think this is a required one. So
I have a question.
yeah,
So there was like a part in one of the slides that about like depositing things after a fundraiser.
yeah.
There was a part where it said something about a card. Could you elaborate on that or like are you saying like we can put the cash like on our personal cards and then submit the cash that way or
No, so after a fundraiser, oh, I'm trying to clarify. So after a fundraiser, if you've collected cash, you should most definitely go deposit that cash as soon as humanly possible. But if you need folks to deposit money to your organization using a credit card, so if you're collecting dues and you say, hey, I don't have cash, I only have a card, I need to make sure I get my money to my organization, you can go to the Auxiliary Business Services office to make your deposit to your organization using your card, but you can only do it at the Auxiliary Services office. So you're not Cash App or Venmoing someone $5. You're going on campus to give the money to your org through Auxiliary Services. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
I see. So you could just like tell the member like to go to auxiliary services to pay the due.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
you're welcome. I'm going to pause the recording.